I'm Beth Perrell. September is National Gynecologic Cancer Awareness Month. My two guests are from Women and Girls Cancer Alliance, Denise Lee, she's the events coordinator, and Carrie Kelly, the program manager. And ladies, the first thing we should talk about is the fact that the name has changed. This is a new name. You want to tell us about that?
Oh, definitely. It's a very exciting time for us. The organization is formerly known as OCAF, or the Ovarian Cancer Alliance of Florida. It's really been around since 1997. A group of survivors were sitting around and having coffee one day and decided that they needed to get out there and really educate other women. Unfortunately, gynecological cancers aren't really discussed. When it comes to female cancers, breast cancer has been widely embraced. People are comfortable talking about that. But when you start talking about ovarian cancer, when you start talking about cervical cancer, we don't hear these words as much, and so people aren't as comfortable. So this group of women decided that they were going to go out and try to change that. So the Ovarian Cancer Alliance was around for a long time, and it was really just grassroots. They were going around talking to women, and then they started to notice that they were the only one in Central Florida doing this, so they were getting cervical cancer survivors coming in. And over the course of the years, it has expanded, and so we decided it was time to go ahead and expand the name as well. So the new name is actually the Women and Girls Cancer Alliance. We embrace what we like to say the top and the bottom. We're doing all gynecological cancers, educating and advocating, and also breast cancer. We're excited to add that girls component because we need to make sure that we're reaching all women of all ages and educating and hopefully preventing cancer, or at least catching it in the early stages, because women and girls know what to look for.
So let's first talk about the gynecologic cancers, I guess as you say, the bottom part.
Yes.
And I think a lot of women kind of always thought of one thing, which is, I guess, the cervical cancer, and we kind of assumed everything was the same thing. But there's,
Right.
5 different cancers?
There are, and unfortunately, we've all heard of a pap smear, but the pap smear really only detects one type of cancer, and that is the cervical cancer. So the other cancers in that group of gynecological cancers, there's no test for, and that's why they are not caught early. And unfortunately, the late stage diagnosis means that your survival rate is going to be less.
So if there are no tests for it, how can a woman know that she needs to go to the doctor?
It's all about getting to know your body and getting to know what to look for. Unfortunately, a lot of the symptoms and signs are very common for a variety of things. So if your period is heavy, or there's an absence of a period, or if you're noticing that you're gaining weight, or you're losing weight and you're not really doing anything to cause that, bloating, fatigue, pain anywhere, in your abdomen.
Okay, so those are some signs that everyone should look for.
Absolutely.
Now, I do want to go ahead and bring you in, Denise, to talk about, again, September. What kind of events are going on?
We have a lot of great events going on, many community events, fundraising events. Of course, there's a social media campaign we have going on Facebook. It's We're Turning It Teal. You can find our picture on our Facebook at facebook.com/WGCancer. And there's a photo on the page that you just tag yourself in and post as your new Facebook profile, just to spread that in social media, to turn it teal, because not many people know teal is the color for gynecologic cancers. Everyone knows pink, but we want to make sure teal is prominent as well this month. Some other events that we have are education awareness events at different health fairs. We have an event at some colleges and some lunch and learns, as well as a few fun ones like our Teal Heel hike at the end of September at Seminole Town Center.
How do people learn more and get involved?
2 great places would be our website, www.wgcancer.org. Best way to keep updated on the spot would actually be to like our Facebook page.
Now I'm going to return to what you were saying, Carrie, about the idea of you wanted to bring in women of all ages and the up top. So let me take that first. How are you combining with the breast cancer awareness?
On the same lines of educating the community, there's a lot of connections between breast cancer and gynecological cancers. Your risk of having a secondary cancer after you've had either breast cancer or a gynecological cancer does increase. So it's very important for women who have had cancer before to definitely make sure that they're staying on top of their medical care and being their own advocate. And that's what I was saying before. It's so important that you learn about your own body because you know yourself better than anyone. You have to be a self-advocate. When you go to the doctor, don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to ask questions if something seems a little abnormal for your body.
And then the other thing I wanted you to take on was that idea of the different ages, because I think a lot of people would jump to women of a certain age, and in fact, very young women are affected by this, and maybe that's where social media kind of pops in, right?
Yes, yes. We've actually had accounts, even local accounts, being girls as young as 16, 13, even a very few rare elementary school girls who get diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And ovarian cancer is the most deadly gynecologic cancers because of the lack of education, especially the subtle symptoms. So that is definitely part of the social media campaign. You get your pap smear at 21, but they don't let you know that the pap smear only detects cervical cancer and not the other 5. So that is definitely a strong part.
I have to ask you, back to the testing. You have the pap smear, but what other kinds of testing, when you go in with certain symptoms, how do they narrow it down? What your issue is?
Well, one of the educational materials we have is a symptom diary card. And this is actually something you can also find on our website. And it's pretty much a 2-week calendar of all the symptoms of each gynecologic cancers, the most common symptoms, like Carrie was saying, the bloating, the abdominal pain, gaining weight. And if you feels unnormal to you, and if you track it for 2 weeks or longer, this is something physical that you can bring into your doctor and say, hey, look at this. I don't feel well. Obviously, something's not going right. Could you look at this? Then they can do alternatives like a vaginal rectal exam, ultrasound. They'll follow up with other tools instead of to diagnose you.
Okay, but they know to go looking at that point.
Yes.
Okay. I think it's interesting you're saying track it for a couple of weeks, and then you know that those symptoms are persisting. And for people like me, I have no sense of time. You know, I might assume, I just had that yesterday, but if I was tracking it, it might be 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. So you really have to pay attention and, pay attention to the calendar as well.
Yeah.
So is education the biggest piece of what you do?
Definitely. We try to have a community presence on all sorts of levels. So one of our longest running programs is actually with UCF, the nursing school, and it's called the Nurses Education Initiative. And that program, what we do is we put a face. I think the important thing is to put a face to some of these gynecological cancers. With that program that we're partnered with UCF, we actually bring in survivors so they can tell their story, so they can explain how they might have been diagnosed. I know we hear stories out in the community all the time. I didn't know it was cancer. I was having, a pain, and it turned out that that's what it ended up being. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. They removed a tumor, and then, they found this cancer at the same time. So how people are diagnosed and trying to get that conversation started between the patient and the nurse so that when the doctor comes in, he knows what sort of, or she knows what sort of questions to ask the patient. So that's one element of how we're in the community. We also are launching a new program called Girl Talk, and that program is going to focus on young girls, teenage girls in the community, and we'll have different steps, including what to expect when you're going to the gynecologist. A lot of people, even in their 20s, maybe 30, haven't ever been to the gynecologist, and they don't know what to expect. So education is really the key to prevention because, like we said, there's no test. There's currently no test for most of these cancers.
So how does someone set that up with you to get that, bring you in to talk to their group?
They can definitely reach out to us on Facebook or through our website.
And again, the website is WG, women, girls, I guess, right?
Yeah.
WGcancer.org. And if you're just joining us, this is formerly the Ovarian Cancer Alliance of Central Florida, newly called Women and Girls Cancer Alliance, and really addressing all of the cancers that women are affected by. You were speaking, I believe, Carrie, that there's a relationship between some of the cancers, that if you get one, you're more likely to get another one. So family history as well as your own personal history is something to be aware of.
Oh, definitely.
Give us a little sense of the kinds of factors that play into you being likely to develop one of these cancers.
Well, I think one case that everyone's really familiar with is BRCA 1 and 2, such as Angelina Jolie last year when she went public with it. And it shed a lot of light with breast cancer, but it finally gave a bit of that light to gynecological cancers, ovarian cancer specifically. So BRCA 1 and 2, any breast and ovarian cancer syndrome, you are more likely to develop one or the other. But because breast cancer does have a diagnostic tool and ovarian cancer doesn't, ovarian cancer still is the most deadly. And there's no diagnostic tool for that to catch it early on versus breast cancer. So, but there's cancers related. Breast cancer is also related to uterine cancer, and they're linked through estrogen and obesity. There's a lot of different cancers, how they all interconnect, like the Lynch syndrome also connects colon cancer and prostate cancer for men. For example, going back to the BRCA gene, if for men it would be breast cancer and prostate cancer in family history, not just your intimate family. So if your mother or your aunt had this family history of BRCA, you are also at a higher risk of prostate if you're a male or ovarian if you're a female.
Do you want to talk about prevention? Because you just mentioned obesity's connection, so I guess weight management is always an important factor. What else?
Well, I think it depends on the different types of cancers. Like, for example, cervical cancer, there's actually a pretty high link to it with smoking, as well as HPV. HPV is the major cause of most cervical, vaginal, and vulvar cancer. So that's 3 out of the 5. And as you know, there's also HPV vaccine that young girls and boys can get vaccinated with, which is a great prevention tool to prevent these cancers. The HPV vaccine also prevents other different types of cancers as well.
So that vaccine, how many years now has it been widely distributed?
Oh.
We're all looking at each other. We're not sure.
Yeah, I mean, my goodness, I think it's been at least available on the market for anywhere between 10 and 15 years. Originally, it wasn't marketed to young boys, but what we are seeing is that young boys can be carriers. And so when they engage in activity with women or young teenage girls, they are transmitting HPV. It's very common to have HPV. Most strains of HPV will clear up on their own, and however, there are some that won't, and those are the ones that are linked to some of these gynecological cancers.
Is it just cervical cancer, or what is it related to, the HPV? What cancers?
I know off the top of my head with gynecologic, it's cervical cancer, vaginal cancer, and vulvar cancer. Mostly because of the way it is transmitted through sexual disease. I know HPV is also on the rise with throat cancer as well. Okay.
So I imagine when you're speaking to younger girls, that is one question, like, why do we get this vaccine? Should we get this vaccine? And, looking out 10, 20 years from getting the vaccine, what's known? How does it affect us? Do you get those kind of questions?
Oh, absolutely. And it's definitely a conversation that we like to have with young girls and their parents. I think before, you have your child vaccinated against anything, you should read up on it. And you should ask those questions. And it opens the door to have that conversation with your daughter. The vaccine, you really want to make sure that your children are vaccinated before they become sexually active. And that can be a very awkward conversation to have with your 8, 9, 10-year-old child. But our main mission is to just get that conversation on the table. Sometimes it's the uncomfortable conversations that we need to have the most. It's also worth noting that the Jewish community, research is showing that they are at a higher risk to have some of these cancers. So we are reaching out to the Jewish community and making sure that they have this information available to them as well.
I want to talk a little bit more now about the fact that you're now the Women and Girls Cancer Alliance. So have you brought different groups who used to work on one thing versus the other kind of together under one roof?
That is something that we are in the process of doing. I am the new program manager, and at Women and Girls Cancer Alliance, we like to call it the WG Cancer because the name gets really long. But one of the things I am focusing on is to make sure that we make those bridges and those partnerships so that we can embrace the new updated mission and focus of the agency.
And even on the event side, I've actually seen an increase of people reaching out to our organization as women and girls, because when you think of women and girls cancer, you think of breast cancer automatically. They don't think of the bottom parts, which is, on our side because we get to educate them. Women's cancer is more than just the top half. There's the bottom half as well. So I've actually personally seen a bit of an increase already of outreach.
So I'm sure there are some men listening to us right now going, what? So talk to men. What's their involvement in this?
Well, I guess we should say hi to all the spouses, brothers, and partners of our listeners. I think it's important to remember that any time you're dealing with an illness, whether it be cancer or any sort of long-term illness, that the caretaker is always involved. And sometimes they get overlooked because they're not going through the disease, but anyone who's ever taken care of someone who's going through a life-threatening illness knows that it takes a toll on you too. So we definitely encourage men and partners, spouses, to get involved. We have a program that's called Loki's Lunch Bunch. And what this is it's kind of an informal support group in that we all get together once a month and we do lunch. And everyone pays for themselves, but you get to be around other caretakers. You get to be around other survivors or other patients who are actually going through treatment right now.
And that's got to be a good thing to have, that sort of discussion, because just your involvement in the decision making about the treatment, it's overwhelming. It's a big responsibility. Do you find that when it comes to treatment, there's some good things out there? I mean, obviously, you mentioned tumors being removed, but we know there's no test, but are there good treatments for these cancers?
I think that's something that everyone's unique. Everyone's treatment is different. So definitely, if you are diagnosed, to talk to your doctor, and they'll create the medical plan out for you, specifically for you, whether it includes chemotherapy or surgery or a combination, or whether it includes enrolling in a clinical trial. It all depends on your conversation with the doctors and what the doctor feels will work for you.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was just going to say we do have resources available, and we haven't mentioned our phone number yet, so I just wanted to give that out. You can call the office at 407-339-0024. We do have resources in the community. We work closely with the hospitals in the area and different gynecological offices, doctors and the gynecologists in the area to make sure we're making that connection. We want to make sure people are getting educated, but also that they're not alone. Unfortunately, some women do have to go through treatment alone, and there are resources that are available, and we can link those with our partners.
So what are some of the other things you do? You mentioned the nurses program. You've got the support group.
We have the Girl Talk program that's going to be launched so we can reach, the youth in the community. We have talked about how we do health fairs. If anyone is interested in having us come out to your church group or to your women's group or your bunco night, please let us know. We would love to come and give a presentation, give out those symptom cards that we have. And you can give us a call or email us. With the new focus, we are launching a whole bunch of new programs, and we're looking forward to coming back on the station and talking again when we launch those towards the end of the year and the beginning of next year.
All right, excellent. Well, let's talk again about September. It's National Gynecologic Cancer Awareness Month. What's in store? You are proudly wearing your teal. I guess that's teal.
Yes.
You two must have like a whole closet full of teal clothes, right?
Oh, yeah. I have almost every accessory in teal you can find. As soon as I see it, it's mine.
We also have a great t-shirt I'm going to let Denise talk about. So if you do see us at events, we're usually wearing it, and I'm hoping it'll make you chuckle.
Yes, our t-shirts for our organization say, "Yoo-hoo, how's your hoo-hoo?" And it's adorable, and everyone gets a little laugh out of it because we want to bring a little laugh to this topic of cancer, which, isn't all that happy. But you can definitely find this t-shirt on our website at wgcancer.org, and it's in a nice teal t-shirt with a bikini on it that says, "Yoo-hoo, how's your hoo-hoo?"
Okay. And so wear the t-shirt, wear some other teal this month. What else?
We are encouraging everyone to turn their Facebook teal. If you go to our website or our Facebook page, there is actually an icon that you can change your Facebook profile picture to. And we would love to have you come out to any of the events. I'll have Denise go through them again, but we have events going on all month long, and we welcome you to come and join in.
Go ahead, Denise.
Yeah, so we have a few events. For example, National Wear Teal Day is September 5th. Of course, we want to teal out our social media, sport all your teal items today. The Whiny Wench at the Seminole Town Center on Friday, September 5th, is holding a painting class for us for $30, and all proceeds come to us. And then on September 21st, we are also the charity of the month for Burger 21 at UCF, and they're generously donating 10% of the entire day's proceeds to us. And of course, we'll be out at Burger 21 to table and to have some fun activities as well.
And I'll mention again, wgcancer.org online or calling 407-339-0024. You can get more information. All right. Well, as we wrap up here, let me ask you each for any final thoughts you have or anything you want to mention again. So why don't I start with you, Denise?
Yeah, so we'll definitely come out to our September events. Check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/WGCancer. You can find all the constant updates about what's going on this month. You can turn your Facebook teal. We have our painting class Friday, September 5th. Come and see us at Burger 21 on September 21st. And then our Teal Heel Hike at Seminole Town Center on September 27th.
And by the way, is that literally in heels?
Oh, no. Heels
Okay.
are optional. I'm personally grabbing an old pair of flip-flops and decorating them in teal and feathers and a lot of fun stuff.
Okay.
Heels are optional.
All right. And so what final thoughts do you have, Carrie?
I just want to stress again that prevention is key, education is so important, but also that anyone out there who is going through, any woman out there who's going through cancer and might need support or might need some information, please don't hesitate to give us a call. Let us try to link you, with some resources in the community. Also, we have volunteer opportunities all the time. So if you'd like to get involved, please do call or write us on either Facebook or email.
All right, I've been speaking to Carrie Kelly. She's the program manager, and Denise Lee, events coordinator for the Women and Girls Cancer Alliance. I'm Beth Perrell.